Hey guys, welcome back to the Prehistoric Life Podcast. And today, we got another interview with Nova Studios right here. He's down there. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm David. I'm the guy behind Nova Studios. So great intro you got there.
Thank you. So, the basic question I start off every interview with is what's your favorite dinosaur?
Uh, well, that's always a tough question. Uh, Carnotaurus? Yeah,
That is absolutely
yeah,
fair. I love Carnotaurus.
yeah. The
So,
Carnotaurus. Yeah, that's probably my favorite one. Uh, out of the out of the carnivore species, I think Brachiosaurus is my favorite herbivore.
you have something with Carnotaurus and Saltosaurus, if I'm not mistaken, coming out,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Recently made that for dinosaur creatures. Yeah. And
Um,
I also made a standalone version that you can download on Cult 3D. Yeah.
the
Uh,
wrong arrow. I kind of hate that they hide them. Um, Here, I'll put this up so you can all look at that. There it is. Go check out his Instagram. It's on there. Um, but
and,
yeah, would you like to talk about what you do?
well, I try to make replicas, dinosaur skeletons, mostly anatomically correct skeletons. I only did one fantasy piece that's an embryo dinosaur. Was one of my first pieces, and it's also became the logo of Nova Studios. So, but I tried to make them as exact as possible. Uh, they still need to be 3D printed, so some little details might not be exactly true because they have to be printable. So sometimes you have to cheat a little bit.
So might be missing a rib or two, but who knows?
No, no, no. The ribs, the vertebrae might get a little bit deformed because normally there's a space between the vertebrae. Uh, so because at that place there was this flexible, yeah, I don't know how you say it in English, but there was this flexible muscle in between the vertebrae. It's not actually a muscle; it's more like tissue. But because the model needs to be 3D printed, I closed the gaps with the space of the vertebrae.
So
So
I mean, so that they have to stay together. So you can't
yeah,
print every single individual vertebrae and use a wire. Make
there are some models like the Dimetrodon. That's actually a really realistic replica of the Dimetrodon, and those are connected by wires.
hmm,
So the space between the vertebrae, because it's a life-sized model, the small dinosaurs like the Compsognathus, the Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon, Dimorphodon. Sorry, I always mix those up. Um,
right here with you.
yeah, Dimetrodon, Dimorphodon, a
It sounds way
tomato,
too smooth.
tomato. It's different species, not tomato, tomato, but
Yeah, separated by a couple million years, but who's counting?
yeah, yeah, who's counting? But because it's not actually a dinosaur because you can't say it's a dinosaur. Uh, because those are small models compared to the enormous gigantic ones, I can make those at true scale. So the vertebrae and everything is exact as it should be. Hopefully, that's at least what the paleontologist told me.
I mean, you never know. 100 years,
Yeah,
you're gonna be like, yeah, actually, this one only had 18 legs, and you're like, what?
yeah, that's one of the reasons I will never make a Spinosaur. That concept changed every year, so I'm not gonna make one until they agree on something.
Does it swim in the water? Does it stand on two legs? Is it four-legged? Is
Yeah,
it mostly aquatic? I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, that's I got asked a lot why don't I make one, but as long as they don't agree on something, then no, not gonna make it.
what you do is you cheat and you do something like just like Spinosaurus claw. You sell those and
Yeah,
you're like
but
I know that's
the,
accurate.
yeah, but there are a lot of them. Claws, vertebrae, separate vertebrae, and actually there are a lot of skeletons available for download about the Spinosaurs. So I try to make the models that haven't been made.
The more niche dinosaurs that people don't know.
Not not per se the niche ones, but the ones that, like, for instance, the Majangosaurus skeleton hasn't been made yet. So I made that one. Let's see. I think I got about 20 models. I'm working on an Oviraptor, a
Very niche.
Terzinosaurus, Protoceratops. That's one for a museum, actually. Uh, yeah, the ones that don't get made, uh, I'm trying to get made because I'm not the only one that can make build skeletons. So
I mean, yeah, but that's like a very unique process. Would you like to kind of not
yeah,
reveal trade secret, but walk it through a little bit?
yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, it's not a big secret. I think the most prominent thing to do is do the research. When I get interested in a specific dinosaur, I try to do as much of research as possible. I'm no paleontologist, I'm no scientist, so my understanding of it is very limited. Uh, so I turned to some buddies of mine, not really buddies, but acquaintances that are in the field, that advise me on take a look at that, and explain a lot of the scientific terms to me. A lot. So then I have a buddy. His name is Ivan Iofrida. He also makes we sometimes work together in making a model. He actually built the Carnotaurus, and I made the Saltosaurus. So props goes to him for the Carnotaurus. That's why also uh, I I uh, I also include him in the comments whenever he participates in a model. Uh, but we usually work from skeletal drawings from certain species and try to make a 3D replica of it. Um, so yeah, and a lot of CT scanning if it's available, because a lot of CT scannings are copyright protected. So
I can see that.
because I have some contacts in the paleontology community, um, I try to reach out and try to get access to those CT scans, uh, and that I can use. I know that copyright protected, but if I can have some agreement that I can use them for reference for my models. So
I mean,
I don't actually use the CT scans. I use them as a reference for the dimensions and then how they are built and the details of it. And sometimes I get approval that I can use them commercially from the museum or university.
so you don't base it on an individual. You base it on like the generic features of the
Yeah,
individual.
yeah,
That makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. So instead of like
yeah,
for the Saltosaurus, if you use like a real Saltosaurus skeleton, you're not like, well, this specific individual had cratchet. What am I trying to say? Cracks here. You don't put those. You're just like it would have been whole bone. So
yeah.
that
Yeah,
kind of
remodel the. I sometimes do work for museums in remodeling pieces that they found, like broken ribs, multiple pieces of ribs, and try to remodel them into a complete 3D model, so they can print it and I can use it. So that's also one of the reasons why I have a big database. Uh, and yeah, those for museums, I do those for free. Those reconstructions in 3D.
Hmm.
So as long as I can keep the model, if they say you can't keep the model, they have to pay. Yeah,
I mean, this seems like a fair deal. I mean, so
yeah,
you said you make smaller creatures like, well, life sized.
yeah.
Market it as life size. Why not? Um, have you ever tried to make something like bigger, like a bigger creature, or is that just
Well, I'm actually for a museum called the Tsar Museum in Belek. It's a Swiss museum. Uh, it's a private-owned museum. I'm making a Protoceratops, or life-size Protoceratops, with a baby. So they recently put it on their Facebook, so it's not a big secret anymore. They're going to make a display of a Velociraptor attacking a Protoceratops. So I'm building the Protoceratops that's protecting its baby.
huh?
So
And
and I only completed the skull, a few neck vertebrae, and I'm starting on the rib cage now.
so you gotta like print off every individual piece and put it together.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like a
My
lot.
wife loves it.
So you must just have like a warehouse somewhere, just like with an industrial 3D printer. Or
No, no. Actually, that's a funny story. About last year ago, uh, I started tearing my house down, doing some reconstruction work. It all started with the garage, and pretty much ended up basically tearing the whole house down. So me and my wife have to
fun.
relocate at my mother-in-law's house. So she's having a real big fun at that. She loves my dinosaurs, by the way. Yeah.
It tends to happen. But I mean, so you just like do it on the dining table. You're just like, oh, oh, guess we're
Yeah.
eating in the living room again.
No, I usually work at night, so I have a daytime job, and Nova Studios is and will always be a hobby of mine. So I do those work when I get home, when there's some time off. So I don't work at it 24/7. So uh, yeah, it's when I have time. It's something I enjoy doing. So, and as long as I enjoy it, I'll still keep doing it.
I mean, it's what makes a hobby fun. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you
A lot
get
of people ask me, why don't you do that full time? It's just I think I would get bored
yeah,
doing it every day, day in, day out.
you have to
So
do every little thing to perfection. You got to worry about all the shipping and handling costs and all that.
that's why I work with dinosaur creatures now. I was trying to get out of the printing business because it takes up a lot of time doing the printing, the painting,
I
the
imagine.
shipping, and I thought I underestimated that part big time. So when I get through my last orders, I'm gonna shut down the modeling by buying the models, and you can only buy the models then at Dinosaur Creatures. So, and then I can focus all my attention to the modeling part, which that's the main reason I started doing it.
Get someone else to handle all the shipping and stuff.
Yeah,
Mm,
you can have that.
I want to
I'll
focus on the
just
part I want to do.
yeah, and I'll just pick the money that pays off.
I mean,
Yeah, no. But
that's what I've seen from most products like that. They're just like somebody else just handle the shipping and all that. I'll just keep doing whatever I want over here.
well, yeah, there was even a time where I started thinking I'm gonna shut down Nova Studios even because it took a lot of time. There was a moment where I hardly had any sleep. because I got home, I got a little kid, a little son, got a wife, got a family. Still need to pay attention to that. I got my full time job and reconstructing the house and doing Nova Studios, the models, the shipping, and everything. So it started to turn out to be a lot. And then Dinosaur Creatures contacted me at the right time uh, and asked me if they can print my models and sell them. Go ahead. Here you
Here's,
go.
here's what I've done. Take it. Give me a cut or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
So,
I think we
and
make a
they
3D
asked me
printed
if I
model.
some yeah, and they asked me if sometimes I can make some exclusive models for them, like the Carnotaurus and the Saltosaurus. So that's not a problem for me.
Mhm.
Uh, those are the models that can be downloaded. No, those are only available as a physical model for dinosaur creatures.
Hmm.
So yeah, sometimes
Very
you have
interesting.
to do something
And I
to keep
mean,
everyone happy.
I honestly feel like dinosaurs is a safe industry to do this with. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Uh,
like you said. I mean, you work with museums; they're always gonna. What
yeah,
museum
never
doesn't?
thought that would actually really happen. But there was this museum in, I think, Arkansas. Not really sure. It's called the Museum at Dinosaur Junction.
Hmm,
And there's this great guy who started the entire museum that contacted me and wanted to purchase the model. And he bought one. He put it on display at the museum. And yeah, things started from there. Then saw the museum, the Sawyer Museum in Belek contacted me. Then another museum in the Netherlands, uh, two museums in the Netherlands, one in England, and s- things started from there. So
you make a good product; people want it.
yeah,
Mm.
apparently I tried
That's
to.
what I've been told.
Well, yeah, it's not like yeah. I hardly get any feedback. Most people, when I release a model, sometimes it can be an error inside. And because I don't print every model, that's a task that's nearly impossible. Uh, and I put something on called 3D. I got a couple of people like Matthew, Brianna, who I met online that started printing my models, and those are about the only persons that I get some feedback from, telling me, well, take attention to that one because that part doesn't fit really good inside that part. And that's how I build up the models. I got people yelling at me, especially Matthew. Hi, Matthew. Uh, uh, yeah, but no, I got a great backing of people that came along the way, and actually some great people
So
supporting me.
you just spend most of your time like designing the 3D model,
Yeah, yeah,
and and those people that you just named spend their time printing it, and then you said dinosaur creatures just sell it and ship it and all that. They handle all
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
yeah, it seems like you got yourself a side business there.
yeah. Don't let the tax guys know it.
That's for sure. I mean, you gotta start paying taxes on it.
I pay my taxes, trust me.
It's not worth not paying your taxes.
I live in Belgium. They know better how much I earn than me, actually. Uh, so yeah, but it's still a hobby, and that's the part I like the most. That I can, if I don't want to do an assignment, if it doesn't interest me, I can just say no.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like I don't have to do it.
yeah,
I mean,
uh,
but money is good too. If they're like, here's $20,000, will you do it now? It's like,
yeah, but I'm
no.
40 years old now, and there's I used to be when I was about your age. I would do anything for a couple of bucks. Uh, But when you get to my age, I'm starting to sound like an old guy. My age. Well, listen, kiddo.
Back in your day.
Back in my day. Yeah, no. But yeah, it doesn't interest me that much. Still interests me that I can make a few bucks on the side, and buy something new like a new PC or something,
Mm.
or a new graphics tablet. But I don't do it to make a lot of money because that would be, yeah,
Not meant to pay the bills.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just fun to do.
It's something
So
fun to do, and you were able to just turn a profit on it. So I mean,
yeah, yeah. And also, about a couple of months ago, I think it was November, I got an email from a journalist,
hmm,
uh, and he was writing a book about dinosaurs in our cultural environment. And he write me an email. Oh, by the way, I put you in my book. I was okay. What's
cool.
inside the book? He never responded when I asked what's in the book. I don't. What, did you comment on something? Did I do bad? Don't know.
You hate
He
me?
never responded. So I had to buy the book to see what was in it. I was like, what the fuck?
Smart marketing strategy.
Yeah, it was smart of him, but yeah, it was pretty positive. And those are the fun things. And when I bought the book, it was at a show and tell with a Q and A and everything. And there was this paleontologist named Koen Stan, who is kind of a big name in the community here in Belgium. Um, he was also there in the panel. Started talking to him. He invited me to a speaker, not me to speak because I'm not that intelligent about all that stuff. Uh, he asked me to come to the university because there's a lecture there about dinosaurs and everything. So I went through there, and yeah, learn a lot at that lecture. And yeah, gradually getting to know new people inside the community, knowing other paleontologists like Ivan Iofreda, and a couple of more. Yeah, that's it's all fun. So and as long as it stays fun. Also, another great paleontologist artist is Valadinos, who also makes great models. He's also on Cult 3D. So it's not like we're competing against each other. We can admire each other's models, each other's artwork. We all know how
Obviously. Mhm.
painstakingly it is sometimes. And yeah,
I mean,
Vitamon is also a great artist.
it's a hobby, so you can just be like, "Nice work, man. You see this?" And they're like,
Yeah, yeah. There are a couple of eggheads in the community that I try to stay from, uh, but yeah,
"No
not all
matter
the
what
time.
you do, there will be someone that hates on it for whatever reason."
Yeah, well, I know I told you the story in private about my first model I put on Culture D for free. That got a little bit controversy. And the guy who has this about the same model, it's not exactly the same, but he claims it is.
Tweaked it.
Uh,
So it was different.
what?
You just tweaked it a little bit, and then
Well, he used the same CT scans that I did, and those CT scans are with a non-commercial license, uh,
mm,
which means you can use them, but you can't use them for commercial gain. So
making a profit off of them.
yeah,
So
make a profit of it. So I that's why I put it up for free. So I used the same CT scans bones he used, and made the Psittacosaurus skeleton. Uh, and yeah, he started heckling me that I'm a thief and everything like that. So and since a year or two, his model doesn't get downloaded anymore, and mine every day gets downloaded every time. So sometimes I update him a little bit on how many times it got downloaded for me. Sounds a little pity, but it's really funny too.
Petty is that petty does.
So yeah,
It's like,
those
my
are the
bad, man.
little struggles, but it's all fun and games. Yeah. The
It's like,
largest part of the community are really, really supportive guys
yeah,
and girls.
a lot of them should be. They should be just as a community of people who just enjoy
Yeah.
dinosaurs. We shouldn't bash each other's
Yeah.
content like
No.
that. I mean,
No.
but
There,
people
there's
do.
you can always see the people that are really into it when that's why I would never make flesh models. I support and admire all the artists that make flesh models like FFB the Brit Nola. He's a great artist too. But if you make a raptor, there's a huge part that doesn't like feathers. There's a huge part that loves feathers. There's a huge part that doesn't like lips. There's a huge part that likes lips, and you can't make everyone happy. Uh, and a skeleton doesn't have feathers, and it doesn't have lips, and it's always correct.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot more time than a flesh model, but no people are complaining afterwards.
so I mean, they all kind of go down the drain a little bit and be like, leave it at that. I mean, and another thing with like you brought up raptors. I mean, you have like the Jurassic Park Velociraptor, and everybody knows that's not scientifically accurate
That's actually the
for Velociraptor.
built a it's not a velociraptor. They modeled it after a Deinonychus.
And they
Uh,
changed the Velociraptor. And then
yeah, yeah,
now everybody's
uh,
confused about Velociraptor.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, a large part of my upbringing when I was little until I was 16, 17 years old, I always thought velociraptors were that big. Uh, and actually, they're about the size of a turkey. Uh,
Mm,
so you could easily slap the shit out of it. So you could probably yeah kick it
Still
off.
wouldn't, but
Yeah, still
still gonna
wouldn't do
stay
that.
away from them. But I mean, it
If
seems
you
like
ever
it's a
went
lot
close
easier
to
to
a
think.
turkey, they're pretty they could be pretty dangerous to turkeys. So don't
Turkeys
underestimate
get
the
pretty
turkey.
big. They get surprisingly big.
Yeah, yeah,
But also on the spectrum, I mean, you get like a sauropod, then you look at Velociraptor, you're like,
yeah, yeah.
kind of just
And
a little turd.
they were known to be in packs, so there was never one. Uh,
That claw in the toe, you're busy dealing with one, another one gets you, you're like, nah,
yeah, you're done for.
I'm I'm topping out. You can get off me. You win the round.
Yeah, but yeah, I actually built a replica of the Hector specimen. Uh,
Hmm.
it's also on my Nova Studio site. So last year in 2021, uh, 2 years ago, they sold the most. It was a specimen of Deinonychus skeleton, and it was the most complete skeleton ever found of the Deinonychus.
Hmm.
And they sold it for, I think, $11 million into private hands, so it's never
Wow.
been seen again. And luckily, the auction house that was selling the skeleton took a whole lot of photos from different angles, and I was able to make a replica out of it.
Get a hold of them.
And because it got lost into private hands, there were a couple of museums very interested in a life-size model of the Hector specimen.
So like,
So
make a
yeah,
killing off that one. I mean, you get something that impressive and some. private collectors like that's mine now, and you're like, joke's on you. I got pictures. You're not the only one, buddy.
Yeah, I hope it's as true to the reality it is, but yeah, I think they only showed it once at a museum after it was sold. Don't know where exactly, but uh, yeah, I think it's a shame that skeletons are auctioned off for money, but I can understand it too, because yeah, running a museum does take a lot of capital, and
It does.
yeah, they have to bring in money too. It's museums don't run from just the visitations it gets. They also support the paleontologic community at dig sites, doing excavations and stuff, explorations. They also get their they get funded from the government, but it's not sufficient enough. So sometimes they do have to sell a skeleton or two just to yeah broaden their horizons a little bit.
Sell one, hopefully get two. I mean,
Yeah.
eh,
Uh,
it's a sad process, but it hopefully adds up in the end. I mean,
well, hopefully. Uh, in the meanwhile, I have some replicas. If you're listening out there,
the thing about a replica is it's a little bit less
it's
harder
not
to
that
sell.
expensive, and it's not that heavy, and
No, no.
it yeah, it doesn't need that much maintenance like a real skeleton display.
I
And
mean,
actually, most displays in museums right now are replicas.
yeah, because I mean, you put the actual bone out there, you get some doofus little kid
Yeah,
playing with it.
yeah,
Then it's ash, and you're like, well, you
yeah, and
can't
also
replace it.
because of the humidity in the air, and yeah, every now and then those skeletons need to be dismantled, get preparations, be reinstated, and it does take a lot of money to do that.
That
Uh,
is true, and it's also a very long process, and you have to pay a lot of people to do it, and
yeah,
sometimes it's not worth it. So you just make a cast of whatever, and then whenever
yeah,
it's just a hard plastic, and you're just like, oh, I don't really care if that falls apart. I'll just make another cast. I mean,
yeah. Casting is also not that cheap. The casting is quite expensive too. It's not expensive as a buying a real skeleton, but 3D printing is the cheaper option.
I mean
So
that maybe museums should invest in getting a 3D printer for the back.
a lot of museums have 3D printers now. Most museums do. I met the museum in Yorkshire has their own department called Neo Jurassica, uh, and they make fossil replicas with 3D printers. The Saria Museum in Belgium has their own 3D printer. Uh, Also, the museum in the Netherlands, the Oertet Museum, also has its own 3D printing service. So a lot of museums do have their own 3D printing service.
Hmm. So
So
I bet it's also yeah. I mean, you print out the skeleton. I
the
mean,
big one,
I guess you can get different size 3D printers. Like you can get like a smaller one or like a really
yeah,
big
yeah.
one.
The biggest one I have is a half a meter on a half a meter and 80 centimeters high.
So
So it's
and
a pretty big build plate, but there are printers that can print for 1 meter and 1 meter. But those are really rare and quite expensive. But the the standard 3D printer, like the Creality Ender 3, costs around $150, and it's a
wow.
pretty decent printer. Yeah, it's a pretty decent printer. I made my first skeletons with it,
Hmm.
and when you fine tune that printer, you can have some great models from it.
Hmm.
And you you do have to be a little bit handy with it because it does take a lot of fine tuning to run smoothly. But once it does, it prints out perfect prints every time. And I used that printer for the first year. I bought two of them, and they were printing 9 to 5. And then I started using resin printers for those can print really fine details. And yeah, those are a little bit more expensive, around 200 for a standard size, which is still not that
I
expensive
mean,
in my taste. But they smell real bad, and
because
the
it's
resin
resin.
is toxic. So don't do it in an enclosed space in your home because the smell sticks around for a while and the fumes are toxic. So
Don't do it in your home unless you
yeah,
like dying, but I wouldn't suggest doing that.
well, if you are going to do it inside your home, make sure it's a well ventilated home. Uh,
That's for sure.
Make a proper enclosure, get some really good ventilators in there, and you should be fine.
I
It's
mean,
not like toxic, like when you smell it, you're gonna die. But it's like smoking. Some people can smoke a pack a day and live to be 80 years old, and some people can smoke a pack a day and die when they're 40s. So
but s- still be careful with it if you're going to get
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Don't
yeah.
don't do anything dumb. Don't stick your head in it.
And don't touch it with your bare hands because it gets irritating. But yeah, resin printing is also a little bit more expensive than FDM printing. FDM printing is when the printer goes layer by layer, moving upwards. And resin printer is actually a fluid called resin that cures under UV light. So that's why it smells that bad. And also, you have to cure it in alcohol, isopropanol alcohol. And yeah, you need more materials to have a finished product, so it's actually a little bit more expensive than an FDM printer. But if you want to print fine small models, you can't do that with an FDM printer because the details are not there. You need a resin printer for that.
Yeah. Also, I think I have like a. I'm pretty sure this is an FDM printed one where you can
Well,
kind of see
if
the.
you if you scratch it with your nails and you can feel the layers,
Yeah, you can kind of see the layers too if you look real.
yeah,
You probably
that's
can't see it
that's
on
an
camera.
FDM print.
Yeah,
Hey, is that from Cretaceous sculpting on Etsy?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, I saw that one on Etsy. It's not that. Yeah,
it's not
they
a bad
didn't have that
model.
curve. They didn't have that curve at the end,
No,
but it's a great model.
I'll get my saw and cut it off. It's a handle, so you can show it to people. But I mean, it is a process, and they are surprisingly cheap. Honestly, I thought they'd be more expensive. Like I could buy one right
FDM
now.
FDM printing is not expensive at all. You
The mo-
can print that out for well, let's say $5, and they sell it for 50.
I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, I would assume the most expensive part would be the material itself. Well, the
the
printer.
material one roll of PLA material costs around, depending on what quality you use, between $30 and $50 for one roll. There's about it's about 1.5 kilo. You can print about 100 models of that pterodon skull with it. So
So
yeah, it's not that expensive.
it gets worth it. It
Yep.
it's worth it because you sell one of these for 50. I mean, you sell one, you can buy like a whole nother roll again. You can make a
Yep.
hundred
Yep.
more.
Yep. Yep.
So it's worth it. I might have to steal your
Yeah.
business idea.
But if you sell those for, let's say, $7, mhm, a lot of people will buy it that's for sure. But you would still need to keep up with the orders, and that's where
Shipping.
the shipping comes in. You have to ship every order. You have to pack every order, make sure it gets to the customer completely. Because the first few skeletons I shipped came to the customer broken. So I'm not afraid to say that. And yeah, it took a while to figure that out, and money.
Because
Uh,
then they're like, well, it's broken. I don't want a broken model. I need another one.
yeah, yeah. I'll make another one. I'll ship it to you at my expense, and yeah,
Yeah,
it
be
then it
nice.
gets frustrating.
He's like, yeah, that was a lot of time and effort for, well,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of a lot of
yeah,
time and effort.
yeah,
I kind of
and
just
yeah,
watch the machine do its thing.
yeah, yeah.
But I
Well, yeah,
mean,
it took a lot of time to model it. It took a lot of time to print it, paint it, ship it, package it, and ship it. So people forget that a lot. I had a discussion just this week about. Uh, I put up the Carnotaurus model. Carnotaurus model. I always say Carnotaurus. I don't know why. Carnotaurus model on Cult 3D. Uh, and every model, if it's a full skeleton, it costs around $20. Uh,
hmm,
and a skull costs around $15. And you can download it and print it yourself. You can't sell it because I got copyright of it. But uh, but what I was trying to say, I forgot what I was trying to say. Oh yeah, so there was this guy this week that said, "I'm not gonna pay $20 for a model. I'll pay $20 for the finished product." Uh,
that's not.
$20 doesn't even pay for the for the resin. Yeah, a bottle of resin
I,
costs about $70, so it's
so he
really
goes,
not that
no.
cheap. And you still have to calculate in if a part fails to print, you have to redo it. You have to calculate that into the factor too. So I really hate when guys say that because it's really unappreciative of the work that's involved in it.
So
For $20, I can't even ship it to you.
and
Yeah,
people just dumb sometimes.
yeah. I blame
So
ignorance, but yeah.
your like models that you download, can they be done either way, or do they have to like specifically be done
The
resin
full
or?
size skeletons, except for the yeah, nobody tried it. The Comsognathus and FDM printing, but I don't recommend it. The Dimetrodon, Dimorphodon, sorry, can be printed in resin, or if you have a big printer, resin printer, can be printed in resin. But it's also suited for FDM printing, like the one you have. The Psittacosaurus skeleton is usually done in FDM printing. The skulls can all be printed in FDM, but the finer skeletons are usually for resin printers, but FDM printers have a larger build volume. So if you scale it up, you can probably do it in FDM, but never really tried. But the big skulls like the Edmontosaurus, those are all for FDM printing.
So the skulls are like basically just guaranteed kind of FDM.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, because I would assume FDM kind of is the more common 3D printing because it's
yeah,
the easier one to get and
yeah,
manage. But
yeah. And the safer option too.
that's another part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because resin printing is very messy. Uh, the post processing, you have to take off the supports, clean it with alcohol, sand it down. You have to sand FDM prints too. But what I usually do is I use the resin from that I use for resin printing and paint a little on top of the a layer on top of the FDM prints, so it gets really smooth
Hmm.
and without much loss of detail.
That's actually really smart. I never really thought about that. You could do that.
Yeah,
I mean, granted,
yeah. I
I've
use a
never
little
been
bit
to
of
all.
resin. I paint it all over the model, and then I cure it with a UV lamp, so light.
So I mean, it's a solid business. I mean,
Yeah, and
if
it
people want to
actually works
pay for
very
it.
great.
So people can, I guess when people buy the file from you
Mm,
and
yeah.
they don't have like a 3D printer, they can just be like, "Can I buy just a finished
And
product?" And you just
then I usually refer them to Dinosauria creatures, though they have a license from me that they can print my models and sell them. I also have an agreement with them, and they're pretty nice guys. They're from Spain, and they print and ship all the models. But there are also other alternatives. You can use a 3D printing service, or probably check in your social circle, because more likely there's somebody in your social circle that has a 3D printer.
you know, I'm sure there's somewhere in your general area that you might not know it.
Yeah,
Library, school,
yeah.
possibly. I don't know.
Libraries is a strong possibility that they have a 3D printer. I know my local library has about five. I
Wow.
don't know if it's five, but they have a couple of 3D printers that haven't been used ever. They're just sitting there. So
Can I have
because nobody
those?
knows that they have one.
Go there. Can I have these? They're like,
They're pretty expensive ones too. They're Ultimakers. So
wow. Okay. Yes.
those are I think they cost about 1,500 for one. So
Jesus.
yeah,
They got some good stuff that nobody
I
wants
don't
to
think
look
they're
at.
gonna give them away.
Not too easily.
It'll take a little bit of persuading.
But I mean, yeah, so that 3D printers are cheap.
Yeah.
Well, surprisingly cheap. I guess not technically cheap, but
That
the
depends
same
on
thing.
your financial place, but they're not that expensive.
I mean, what is it? IMB, What is the
PETG,
that one?
the
Um,
material,
yeah, the material.
PETG, but mostly I use PLA.
But I mean, that's relatively not expensive. I mean, so if anybody wants something, I didn't get this from him. I'm just showing this off because it's the only 3D printing thing I had that's you can just tell by looking at it. But
Yeah,
go check him out. I mean, he's got you get the file, print it out yourself. I mean, don't sell it though. That's illegal.
yeah.
um,
That's well, there are. Last year I did caught this one guy on Etsy that was selling my models without asking or without permission, and it ended up costing him a lot. So don't do it.
so I
That's
guess
all
I
I can
mean,
say.
what kind of I guess legal action would there be if like a museum bought the file, printed something out, and then put it on display without telling you
There's no legal action for that.
that?
They didn't sell the model, so they bought the model, they printed it, and they put it on display. So they're not breaking any laws by doing that.
Hmm.
I actually encourage them to do that, because yeah, it's a great advertising for me, and yeah, that's why I make models. They're mostly done for educational purposes and for people getting an interest in it. So that's why museums exist. That's why I do it. Uh, but they don't sell my work. So they print a skeleton and they put it on display. So that's actually, if you would have a 3D printer and you bought one of my models and you put it on display in your house and you get some visitors over it. So it's just the same.
So it'd be like as long as people aren't marketing it, it would be fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so
So
yeah, I could see why that would be.
as long as people don't build a business around my work, so pretending they made the model because uh, uh, yeah, that's just there's some douchebags around there that do that, make a quick buck, and then disappear. And so,
I mean,
but if they get caught, it's gonna cost you a little more
it's
than
gonna
you can
cost you
earn.
more than a 3D printer.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
The guy had to pay the legal fee because uh, and he had to pay a fine, and all his earnings were reverted to me.
hmm.
So
And
yeah,
I guess any product they create that they don't sell gets reverted to you as well. I mean, how does that work?
yeah, yeah. They just contact Etsy is actually uh, one of those places that you can make a great business on Etsy, but there are a lot of people scamming on Etsy too. Uh, using there was this one guy who actually used my photos and placed them on Etsy, and but he never sold anything.
Never
And
printed them, never. Mm,
yeah, and actually, I don't think he got the money from it because Etsy only pays you the money when you have proof that it was shipped and arrived at the customer. I
hmm.
think, but yeah, you hear a lot of stories. Justin from Inhuman Species gets scammed regularly. Also, there are some other sites where you can buy 3D models, and all of a sudden, your work is displayed there when you never posted something on their site. So yeah,
That's.
it
I really don't
happens.
know how Etsy works. I don't sell anything on there yet, so I mean,
Yeah, me neither.
I wouldn't. I
Uh,
don't really know how that whole process works, but I mean, I, selling something without actually giving something away seems like a pretty decent business model somehow. And
until you get caught.
yeah, until you get
That's
caught. Somebody's like, "Hey, I didn't get anything." It's like, read the description next time. It's like, oh,
yeah.
and
So
I guess
how?
oop,
Yeah, sorry.
I guess whenever somebody buys the or asks or commissions like a specific product. So if I was like, could you do a Tsukio Mimas skull file for me? And you did that. And I say I let you keep it. Do I also get to keep like a copy of it or
Uh,
never mind.
oh,
That's
you mean if you are order a specific skull, if you ask me to do a specific project, well, the price of that depends. If I have to make it specific for you, and I can't sell the model on Call 3D, uh, then you will pay full price for it. If we get to an agreement that you pay for the development of it and the 50% of it I make from Call 3D from selling the 3D model, that's another route that can be taken. So, but usually museums ask for the copyright of the model that I can't
usually.
reproduce the model for 3D printing.
And I can kind of somehow see why they want to do
Actually,
that.
I can, but not in the same stance and position that they put it on display, and not with the same textures, because you can't claim copyright over a species. But yeah, nah,
So
I usually don't do it. When I do something for a museum, I don't replicate the product again for 3D printing. So some models I only will do once for a specific museum.
that's yeah. I mean, and Usually, because whenever museums are asking for a thing is going to be either pretty big or pretty detailed.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Yeah.
like, I don't have 4 years to make another one of these.
But yeah, they pay a higher price for it too. So uh,
I can
and
see why.
working out a life-size model, every vertebrae, every rib, every tooth, nook and cranny. It's quite a project to do that.
And I mean,
Uh,
I guess you help any kind of museum, private or public.
well, yeah, and also because I work together with Dinosauria Creature Creations, they also bring in projects for me if I'm interested. So they don't push me to do the project. I only do them when I'm interested in it. And recently, uh, they got connected with a museum that wants a Gorgosaurus skeleton, one juvenile full scale skeleton and one adult scaled skull. So, and
That's
those are great projects, but they take a lot of time. And yeah,
I imagine.
they're well known. They're not that old Dinosauria creations, but in a very brief uh, span of their existence, they got well known for bringing out great products, great quality products. So yeah, happy to work with them.
So I mean, okay. I live too close to an
I
airport.
don't get paid to say that. I generally mean that.
I was,
My bank account just went whoa.
Whew! Hey, it paid me more. You hear my like bedside table rattling in the background because a plane just flew overhead. I'm like, oh, please
Oh,
don't fall.
where are you located actually?
I'm in South Carolina, so I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, that's where the accent comes from.
I'm in the South too, so got
Yeah,
that southern accent, more or less. But I mean,
yeah,
so you said that museums they do kind of like a commission thing.
yeah, yeah. They actually, some big museums work actually with uh, studios that mostly do restoration pieces of real bones and everything. And when those studios, like R2 Evolution here in Belgium, but there's also Dino Lab in America, they do restorations of real skeletons for other museums too. And when those museums ask them to make the restoration of a specific skeleton, and they say no, the fossil is too fragile to put back on display, uh, they have their own artists. But yeah, sometimes they have a lot of work and contact outside artists like me to do, but I don't do just one vertebrae or one rib or one teeth. Those are the things I don't do. I rather prefer to do full skeletons
Or
or skulls.
that too, because I mean, a skull is pretty. A skull, I feel like, is something that is like
It's the hardest part of every skeleton. That's a skull.
they're easy to kind of notice,
Yeah,
and also
yeah,
it's something that's like very interesting to look at.
yeah. But you also have to get the inside fenestra accurate, and not a lot of details are known about specific species, how the inside cranium is, and the fenestra and everything like that.
And not want
So
to crack open the skull. You're like, and
yeah,
not destroy it.
because a lot of skulls are also stuck inside the matrix. The inside is not uncovered, so they don't know how the structure is presented in the inside. And yeah, sometimes it's a little bit of experience with other species, like before the Gorgosaurus is a close relative to the T Rex. T-Rex is very well known. There are a
You also
lot
look
of
at T Rex a little bit too.
yeah. You look at the Allosaurus, you look at the Splitosaurus. Uh, so those are all close relatives. So you get quite an accurate picture on how the inside would be. Same with raptors. You got Velociraptor, you got Utah Raptor, you got Deinonychus, you got also
They're
kind of
all
raptors, Dakota Raptors. So you once you make one species, you get to know the other species too.
because they
So
look because you got like very slight differences, not
you
a
got
lot.
very slight differences in shapes and sizes, and but also in
Like build.
how the skull is formed. Uh, like because the T Rex, for instance, has a really wide head, and
Yep.
the Gorgosaurus is like a little more crushed to the side and elongated in the snout.
Kind of like Tarbosaurus, where it's very
Yeah, same like with
almost thin.
Tarbosaurus. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like
Uh,
Gorgosaurus is more like Tarbosaurus than T Rex,
I,
but
I read
Tarbosaurus
an article that when they first found the species that's in the Tyrrell Museum on display, like the Black Beauty T Rex, they first thought it was a juvenile T Rex. Then they thought it was a Tarbosaurus, and actually now it's known as a Gorgosaurus.
Hmm. So
So that's that's all the same discussion that's happening with the Pachycephalosaurus and the Dracorex. Uh, some a lot of people claim it's the same species. Some claim it's a different species. That's also what's fun about paleontology. It's not all things are can be answered right now. It's still a
it's
science that has to be
we'll keep coming along,
yeah.
keep finding
Yeah,
stuff.
there's still every other week there's another paper coming out, and it just keeps evolving,
Like
and
with
yeah, mistakes
Nanotyrannus,
are bound to be made in the process of it.
with Nanotyrannus and juvenile T Rex and all
Yeah,
that going on,
that's
and the
another
new there's like a
yeah,
new T Rex species that we discovered, and
yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah, and
T Rex is turning into Spinosaurus over here. Stop! Stop! We thought we knew
yeah,
you. And then
it yeah, but then it's they just found a small portion of the new Tyrannosaurus, so they 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 made it out. It's conclusive. There's a new species of Tyrannosaurus. Okay, for me, it's still. I'll just wait a couple of years until to be conclusive about that because I don't jump on the bandwagon for just because one paper came out and also okay that they have evidence, but they used to have evidence that the Spinosaurus was aquatic too, and then it wasn't aquatic, then was land mammal, then it was a river animal, then was a swamp animal. I'll
hit
just wait
final.
until you have a conclusive answer. I'm that guy in the back room that's just waiting until all the people go home and to have a drink quietly.
I'll wait.
Just make some noise, have fun. I'll just wait until you're gone so I can
Woo! Tyrannosaurus.
enjoy my
That's
drink
all
in
I know.
quiet and peace.
It's like I'll stick with Rex. I know we know Rex, so I'll
Yeah,
stick with that one for now. If we figure out the other one, I'll learn it and all that. But
I used the stand specimen for my Monty Tyrannosaurus, so it's actually pretty close to stand, more than I would like to admit. But I made a few changes because I did use the stand T Rex as the model for my Monty, but yeah, it's not completely the same.
so
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, so you kind of build your models and kind of build the display like it would be in a museum kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah,
have like
yeah,
the metal pole and maybe some other
yeah.
supports.
Yeah.
Well, also because it
Well,
needs to
the metal
stand.
poles are actually I make the skeletons with holes inside some parts of it where you can place metal rods in.
Kind of has something like that too. It's got.
Yeah, yeah.
For
Uh, so
those
then
of
you
you
can.
that gotta figure this out. How do I? Yeah, you. There you
Yeah,
go. You can
parts
kind of see it.
inside. I think you have. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah, right there. And that's
yeah,
just because you could like set it down, or you could just have
yeah.
it up. But with a skeleton, you can kind of just prop it up like that.
Well, all skeletons are made in specific parts. Mostly you got the rib cage in one or two parts. Then the neck, then the skull and jaw, then the tail. Mostly the tail is in a couple of parts, and then the hips with the femurs attached to it, and the lower legs and the arms separately. So that's mostly how I do my skeletons in separate parts. If it's a life-size skeleton, well,
There's a bit
yeah,
more
it
support.
depends. Then I'll look to a standard printer like the Ender 3 that we talked about. I'll look at how big that build plate is and divide the parts that they can still fit the build plate to make a life-size skeleton.
So yeah, I mean, because there's a lot that I mean, before you even like build the skeleton, you got to design it, and then on top of
Yeah,
that, you can't just build it and have it standing there because it'll fall over. I mean, it's not how that works. So you got to get supports for it, figure out where it might be the weakest, put a support there. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. First, you make a base mesh. I see. Actually have a little film on how I do it on my Instagram. First, you make a base mesh. So it's like sculpting clay. You get a big blob of clay, and I put it in front of a picture, and I sculpt up the rough proportions of it. Uh, then I'll look for a photo from the side or the front, and place the base mesh over to the side view, sculpt out the rough part of that. Yeah, there it is. Uh, that was actually for the Utah Raptor.
Yeah, a classic
I
dinosaur.
found that photo reference on, I think it was Imgur or something like that. I don't know who the artist was, but whoever the artist was that made those reference photos, thanks a lot. So
Unnamed people.
yeah, don't remember who.
A lot of
I wish
people
I.
have very non-memorable names.
Yeah, I think I found it on not Imgur. I think I found it on Pinterest, but yeah, I I just saved the photo and I forgot to look at the artist's name. Yeah, so very sorry about that. If you ever would watch this, let me know who you are, and I
Somebody
put you in
watching
the
this.
comments.
Hey, that's my picture. We got
So
Camarasaurus up there. I'll send you a picture of that. Maybe you can use it.
well, yeah. The thing is, I try to find as much as reference material as I can find. So that's how you do the basic sculpting of it,
Of the
and then
skeleton.
you remesh the entire blob to finer detail, and then you can sculpt in all the little fine nooks and crannies. Uh, but yeah, it's this movie was actually me sculpting uh, 2 hours, I think.
Did you just
And
like screen record it and then just like speed
yeah,
it up?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into this. They're very, very. Speaking of Spinosaurus, I just happen to have a Spinosaurus skull here. Um, there's like a lot that of detail that goes into these. So I mean, I could only
Yeah.
imagine how much. Because I mean, even with
Actually,
this one. you got like the sensors and stuff all over the nose. So
Yeah. Uh, Wait, I don't know if I can share a photo.
um
Share screen. Don't know if
maybe
no,
it will,
doesn't
maybe it
work.
won't. Because I know
Don't know if it's working. So let me know.
here it is. There.
So
Is
this
that it?
is the Gorgosaurus skull.
Wow. That thing is very intricate. And that's the
So
one for the
I'll
museum.
yeah. So here you can see all the details in the snout. So this part is high resolution texturing. This part still needs to be textured up.
So you're kind of just
So
working from front to back.
yeah, yeah. And here you can see all the different parts of it when I do this. I think yeah, it's gonna take a while. Random, yes.
Oh,
So all the
wow.
different colors are all different pieces.
Yeah, that's
And some parts are still too big to fit the printer, so I'll even have to splice those up too. So
so you
yeah,
can print that part and
it's
kind
go-
of just hook it together.
yeah. Uh,
So
Making keyholes of it so it all fits good, and that's actually for a museum.
yeah, and
So and that's gonna be life sized, so it's gonna be 1 meter in length.
that's gonna be
And
big print.
yeah, I'm not gonna print it myself. So that's for
Like, I just
dinosaur
designed it.
creatures.
You figure it
Good
out.
luck.
I mean, I'm sure you're a busy man. You got stuff to do, so I'll let you
Yeah.
go.
Uh, okay, man. I'm gonna head to the wife. It's family time, right?
Uh, actually, I'm gonna show your not the video, but your Instagram one last time. Um, there's Nova Studios. There's their Instagram. Go check it out. I think you have the store in the bio. What am I trying to say? The store in the bio.
Yeah, that's just the website name, but you can also find me on Cult 3D. That's where
So
most of my models are for download.
if you have Colt 3D, go check it out. There's Nova Studios. I'm assuming you would have it. You can search in Colt 3D and just kind of
Yeah.
Nova
Yeah.
Studios. But
Just put Nova Studios in the search bar and you'll find me.
yep. But thanks for coming on. It was amazing having you on. I mean, and
Thanks
I'll
for
definitely
having me.
stay in touch. I mean, I'm hoping to
Yeah,
have my own
you too,
museum
man.
one day. So
Well,
and
if you have a 3D printer, let me know. I'll hook you up.
and I'll talk to you later.
Great. Thanks,
See
man.
you.
Take care.
You too. And that was Nova Studios. So amazing guy. I love his content. So please go check that out. And while you're there, if you want to go see some museums, go check out Dinosaur Trips. He's got his museum tours that he does. There's his Instagram. I am doing the wrong thing. If you want his website, if I can find it, here it is. There's his website. If it'll load, go check that out too. That's where you can get your trip. I have the Red Rocks and Raptors pulled up because it's led by Dr. Brian Curtis. So go check that one out. And I mean, while you're checking out accounts, you might as well go check me out too on Instagram. It's Prehistoric Life Podcast, if you can believe it. But yeah, I post a lot of other content on there. So yeah, go check that out. And if you want my content early, I try to post on YouTube. Um, Prehistoric Life Podcast is the YouTube channel. I try to post things earlier on there. If it'll load. What did I open? Oh, that's the wrong thing. Um, Hang on, I opened the wrong thing. This should be it. But yeah, there's my channel. Go check it out. I might open up a 3D printing service one day, maybe. Just 3D printers are surprisingly cheap. And if you want all of my content in one place, go check out my website. If it'll open. Yes. Ooh, I have to update it. Because last time we had a battle, Kintrosaurus versus Baryonyx. So go check that episode out. I'll link it on YouTube and all that. But again, I'm your host, Eric Crawford. Thank you so much, Nova Studios, for coming on and talking to me. It's a real honor to always have somebody who loves dinosaurs on. So I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you because I'm hoping to have my own museum one day. So I'll need specimens. But I'm your host, Eric Crawford, signing off. This has been Prehistoric Life Podcast. Remember, keep it prehistoric. Goodbye.